Bienvenue à la cérémonie commémorative du 80e anniversaire du jour de victoire en Europe. Je suis Véronica Pantin, la chef de protocole de la province de l'Ontario, et je suis heureuse de participer à cette commémoration. I'm honored to be here with you today as your Masters of Ceremony. In just a few minutes, the official party will arrive and our ceremony will begin. But first, I'd like to share some information about this site. Vous remarquerez le monument dédié aux anciens combattants de l'Ontario qui s'y trouve derrière moi. Behind me is the Ontario Veterans Memorial built in 2006. This powerful structure is a lasting tribute to our veterans. It serves as a continual reminder of the sacrifices made by those who have served and continue to serve our country during times of war, conflict, and even peace. We gather here to remember and thank the millions of Canadians who've traveled far from home to serve. And today, we celebrate the victory they achieved in bringing an end to the conflict in Europe 80 years ago tomorrow. And now, if you are able, please rise for the arrival of the official party and remain standing for the vice-regal salute. Mesdames et messieurs, si vous êtes en mesure de le faire, veuillez-vous lever pour l'arrivée des dignitaires et rester debout pour le salut vice-royal. Please join me in welcoming the Honorable Edith Dumont, Lieutenant Governor of Ontario. Veuillez-vous rejoindre à moi pour accueillir l'Honorable Edith Dumont, la Lieutenant de l'Ontario. She's accompanied by the Honorable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, Premier Ministre de l'Ontario, the Honorable Donna Skelly, Speaker of the Legislative Assembly of Ontario, Président de l'Assemblée législative, Colonel Frank Lamy, Commanding Officer, 32 Canadian Brigade Group, Commandant 32e Groupe Brigade de Canada, Commander Fraser McKee, Royal Canadian Naval Reserve, Commandant Fraser McKee, La Réserve Navale, Christine McDowell, Associate Deputy Minister, Veteran Affairs Canada, sous-ministre délégué d'Anciens Combattants Canada, and Michelle D'Emmanuel, Secretary of the Cabinet and Head of the Ontario Public Service, Secrétaire du Conseil des ministres de l'Ontario et chef de la fonction publique. I want to start today's program by acknowledging that we are all on lands occupied by Indigenous peoples. They continue to care for this land, and they continue to shape Ontario today. Je tiens à commencer en reconnaissant traditionnellement occupés par des peuples autochtones. Ils continuent de prendre soin de cette terre et de façonner l'Ontario d'aujourd'hui. Traditionally, Toronto was a gathering place for many Indigenous nations, including the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Wendat, and the Métis people. I acknowledge that we are meeting in the area covered by Treaty 13, also known as Toronto's Purchase, and I pay my respects to the Mississaugas of the Credit. Ladies and gentlemen, mesdames et messieurs, je vous présente l'Honorable Edith Dumont, la Lieutenant-Gouverneur de l'Ontario, the Honorable Edith Dumont, Lieutenant Governor of Ontario. Votre honneur.
Please be seated. Premier Ford, Speaker Skelly, Colonel Lemmy, members of the Canadian Armed Forces, parliamentarians, Secretary of the Cabinet d'Emmanuel, distinguished guests, très chers amis, cet après-midi, nous nous recueillons dans un esprit de commémoration et de reconnaissance. À Toronto, comme ailleurs en Amérique du Nord et au-delà de nos frontières, nous rendons hommage aux membres courageux des Forces armées canadiennes qui, il y a 80 ans, ont contribué à libérer l'Europe et, ce faisant, ont préservé notre propre liberté. Here in Toronto and in places throughout North America and across the ocean, we come together to honor those brave members of the Canadian Armed Forces who 80 years ago secured the freedom of Europe and, as they did so, helped to ensure our own. We gather to remember soldiers such as those whose pictures are etched on this memorial. In one photograph taken during World War II, a man leans out the window of a train that is about to leave Toronto and speaks to a small child who is being held up to say goodbye. So many farewells were said as our soldiers departed from training and to the front. And so many reunions were made possible when Europe was liberated from tyranny, thanks to the bravery of the Canadian Armed Forces and of our allies. May 1945 was a time of triumph and great pride. Thousands gathered outside what is now Old City Hall to celebrate and to commemorate those who were never able to be reunited with their loved ones. Perhaps the best way we can honor their service and their sacrifice is to uphold the values they fought for, to kindle within ourselves their spirit of solidarity, to reject the forces that would divide us, to stand up for our sovereignty and our democracy, and to continue to lift up young Ontarians and Canadians, teach them the stories of our veterans, and encourage them to dream about what they can do to create more caring and resilient communities in a country that builds on the best of its past. Lest we forget, n'oublions jamais.
Merci, Votre Honneur. I now would like to invite the Honorable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, to speak. Je vous présente l'Honorable Doug Ford, Premier ministre de l'Ontario. Premier.
Thank you so much. Well, I want to first of all recognize Her Honor. Great speech there, and thank you. Very heartfelt as always. Colonel Frank Lemay with the 32nd Brigade Group, thank you. And I hope I said that right, sir. That's great. Commander McKee and Ross McKee and Major Van Auken. To all the MPPs and elected officials here today, and I see quite a few of them over there, as well as I believe Mayor Olivia Chow. I don't see her, but I hear she was going to be here. All the consul generals, Chief Demkew, and everyone else for attending, we thank you. To the World War II veterans joining us today, it's an honor to have you all here. I also want to thank everyone who worked so hard to put this on today. 80 years ago, this week, brave Canadian soldiers helped bring peace back to Europe. Victory in Europe Day marked the end of one of the darkest chapters in human history. And it was thanks to the incredible bravery, these folks right in front of me, and all our veterans, of those who stormed the beaches and liberated town after town. Those towns still remember this bravery and thank our veterans to this day. As we've all seen in places like Netherlands and throughout Europe, 80 years after the war, they still remember the incredible sacrifices Canadian soldiers made to liberate their country and defend democracy. And here at home, we owe the same to all our veterans. That's why ceremonies like this are so important. As the events of the Second World War pass out of living memory, it's up to all of us to keep alive the memory of those brave young soldiers who made the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. Ontario will never forget your service. Canada will never forget your service. We will make sure future generations never forget either. Thank you, and may God bless our veterans, and may God bless the people of Ontario. Thank you.
Thank you, Premier. Ladies and gentlemen, I invite Colonel Frank Lamy to bring greetings on behalf of the Canadian Armed Forces. Colonel Frank Lamy des Forces Armées Canadiennes.
Good afternoon. Your Honor, Lieutenant Governor the Honorable Edith Dumont, Premier Doug Ford, Your Worship, Mayor Olivia Chow, we do sincerely hope you're here. Our World War II veterans, the very best of us, veterans, distinguished dignitaries, esteemed guests, and our fellow Canadians. Today, we stand united to honor the service, sacrifice, and contributions of Canadian soldiers who stepped up when their nation and the international community needed them most. Set within the context of World War II, where more than 1.1 million Canadians answered the call to serve, and over 45,000 made the ultimate sacrifice in laying down their lives for our nation and the cause of peace. We commemorate their bravery, their selfless sacrifice, and reaffirm Canada's unwavering commitment to our allies and to the fine nation we proudly call home, Canada. We gather here on the 80th anniversary of the liberation of the Netherlands and our shared victory in Europe with pride and honor. In fact, Canadians are connected in this very moment, partaking in similar observances today throughout the Netherlands and Europe. The significance endures. They demand our respect and our remembrance. From the port of Antwerp, northward and westward across the Netherlands, 175,000 Canadians participated in this hard-fought campaign. Some returned home with injuries we cannot see, and over 7,600 did not return home at all, making the ultimate sacrifice for their nation. We will remember them, always. Yet their legacy lives on in all Canadians. Their legacy lives on here in the great city of Toronto and in the great province of Ontario. It lives in the serving regiments of 4th Canadian Division and the 32 Canadian Brigade Group headquartered here in the city of Toronto, who are represented by contingents of soldiers at the ceremony today. These Canadian regiments fought hard from town to town, from street to street, to play their vital part in liberating Netherlands and Europe. To that end, their sacrifices live on in the 48th Highlanders of Canada, who liberated the city of Apeldoorn in the Netherlands. Their legacy lives on in the Queen's Own Rifles of Canada, who liberated the first building on French soil on Juno Beach in Normandy, and fought to liberate the Venter, Oostburg, and Apeldoorn in the Netherlands. Their sacrifices live on in the Royal Regiment of Canada, who took part in the Dieppe raid, and more specific to the Netherlands, fought to liberate Arnhem. Their legacy lives on in every regiment of this brigade and the Canadian Army that perpetuates their legacy, their selfless service, and their sacrifice. But perhaps most importantly, as our Lieutenant Governor and Premier articulated, their legacy lives on in the fabric of Canadian soldiers and our fellow Canadians. Those who step up to be there when it matters most, to confront that which most never will, to promote the rule of law and democratic principles, and to help strengthen professional, accountable militaries that respect human dignity and human rights throughout the world. Driven and inspired by their staggering service and sacrifice of our predecessors, all of us are called to serve, steadfast in our collective resolve, forward in service of Canada and the international community. Today is for those brave souls who sacrificed so much in World War II. They are the very best of us. Please take time to meet those who honored us with their attendance today. Thank you, gentlemen. Let their service and sacrifice inspire us all to continue in their tradition of excellence. Steadfast, forward, we will remember them always. Thank you to each and every one of you for being here today.
Thank you, Colonel Lemieux. Next, we will begin the acts of remembrance spoken by veteran Lieutenant Colonel Evelyn Kelly. Following the spoken word, the bugler will play the last post to symbolize the end of day and those who died in service. There will be 2 minutes of silence to symbolize the night, followed by the bagpiper's lament for the fallen. Finally, the bugler will play the ruse to symbolize awakening in a better world. And now I call upon Lieutenant Colonel Evelyn Kelly. Please stand if you are able. Si vous êtes en la mesure de le faire, veuillez maintenant lever pour l'acte de souvenir.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Ils ne se connaîtront jamais l'outrage ni le poids des années. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. Nous nous souviendrons d'eux.
For those of you who can, please be seated. Pour celles et ceux qui le peuvent, veuillez vous asseoir. The memory of the sacrifice is also preserved in the youth by the youth of our nation and is demonstrated by the commitment to remember, which will be read by Master Corporal Joanne Wellner and Corporal Joel Mayrus of the 709 Toronto Signals Royal Canadian Army Cadet Corps. La mémoire du sacrifice est également préservée par la jeunesse de notre nation et est démontrée par la promesse de se souvenir que sera lu par la corporal-chef Joanne Wellner et le corporal Joe Mayrus, 709 cadets de transmission de Toronto, cadets de l'Armée royale du Canada.
They were young as we are young. They served, giving freely of themselves. To them we pledge, amid the winds of time, to carry the torch and never forget, we will remember them.
Promesse du souvenir. Ils étaient jeunes, jeunes comme nous. Ils ont servi, donnant généreusement d'eux-mêmes. Nous leur promettons, en dépit du temps qui passe, de porter le flambeau et de ne jamais oublier. Nous nous souviendrons d'eux.
Thank you. And now I invite Canadian Armed Forces Chaplain Captain Mark Cavadis, who will offer a prayer.
As we gather to mark the 80th anniversary of the liberation of the Netherlands and the Victory Days in Europe, we remember those who lost their lives so that we could live in freedom. From the beaches of Normandy to the fields of the Netherlands, Canadian Armed Forces members fought to liberate millions living under Nazi occupation. Today, we honor their sacrifices made by those who laid down their lives for us. We speak with gratitude of the liberties we enjoy because of them. We remember our veterans and serving members of our Canadian Armed Forces who suffered and still suffer injuries in body, mind, and spirit to defend something greater than themselves. Their work of building peace is not finished. It continues every day in how we treat one another, how we stand up to oppression and confront injustice in our world. Their legacy lives on in the deep and lasting friendship between Canada and Europe, in the values we cherish, our commitment to peace, human rights, and international cooperation. So let us fight the beliefs which divide us, racism, hate, and all that would seek to dehumanize and destroy. Today we rise up and carry forward the torch of those who came before us, looking to the future with hope. May we be inspired to live with purpose, to stand on guard for one another, and strive for a world where all can be free and live in peace. Amen.
Thank you. And now to recite the poem In Flanders Field by Canadian John McCrae, we will once again hear from the cadets of the 709 Toronto Signal, Master Corporal Yi Ming Miao and Master Warrant Officer Sunali Mundal.
In Flanders Fields. In Flanders Fields, the poppies blow. Between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky, the marks still bravely singing, fly. Scarce heard, amid the guns below, we are the dead. Short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
Les cimetières flamands. Sous les rouges coquelicots des cimetières flamands, qui parmi les rangées de croix bougent dans le vent, nous sommes enterrés. Et dans le bleu du ciel, les alouettes encore, lancent leur cri courageux. Que pleut personne n'entend sur le bruit des canons. Nous sommes morts. Il y a à peine quelques jours. Nous connaissons la joie de la vie, de l'amour, le fraîcheur de l'heureux, le leurre de Ponant. Maintenant, nos camps sans navires reposent et sont là, flamands. Nos mains inanimées vous tend le flambeau. Ça à vous, au présent, de la tenir bien haut, de contre l'ennemi, reprend le querelle. Si vous ne partagez de moi, le foi rebelle, nos corps ne pourront pas rester paisiblement sous les rouges coquelicots des cimetières flamands.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to introduce Commander Fraser McKee, a Second World War naval veteran who will share some thoughts. Commander McKee is accompanied by his son Ross McKee. Je vous présente le commandant Fraser McKee, accompagné de son fils Ross McKee. Thank you.
Your Honor, Mr. Premier, ladies and gentlemen, I am not a hero. I'm a simple sailor, and I was 18 years old when I went to sea, like these young people that you heard from a few minutes ago. It wasn't an urge to slaughter somebody, to even fight somebody. My father was away in the army already. He was there through the First War and all through the Second War as well. It was maybe a family tradition to some extent that I felt I owed the country I lived in and enjoyed and went to school with and so on something, and I enjoyed that I had spent my summers sailing down in Nova Scotia, so I went into the Navy because my father was already gone, and I made the choice myself. I didn't see anybody. The Canadian Navy was different from the other services. The soldiers faced their people man to man, and they made very often personal and heroic gestures and fights hand to hand. The Air Force did the same thing. An airplane flew by and they attacked it, or he attacked them. In our case, the last thing they wanted to see was somebody on the surface. Our destroyers, and we only had a few of them, fought surface actions nearly all around the United Kingdom against E-boats and small surface ships. The Navy was almost entirely involved with convoying the ships to Europe, first of all to the United Kingdom, and then later on to France and Holland and so on, to carry on the war. Our job was to get the ships there. In fact, one of the first rules of convoying was the safe and timely arrival of the convoy, and that was our job. I didn't even see a U-boat until the war was over and the two that surrendered to Canada came into Halifax Harbor. They were the first ones. Then matters changed, because after the war, and I'm talking in the 1950s and 60s and so on, one of my good friends here in town had been an engineer officer in a U-boat. We were what amounted to simple sailors. He was doing his job, what his country told him to do, run a U-boat. I was doing what I was told to do, man an armed yacht to begin with, and later on an escort vessel. That's what I was told to do. I did that for my country, and I was glad of it. And in fact, I made a life out of it because I stayed in the reserves until 1978, and I wrote books about them and that kind of thing. But that was an example I was making to myself and to the young people. I have the example coming along behind me, like these cadets. I was involved with the Navy League, exactly the same as them, and that was part of what I learned and what I worked. But the idea was we were simple sailors like you, like me. That's what we were there for, and that's what we did. And I made a lifetime out of it, and I'm glad I did it, and that's what the whole thing was about. Thank you.
Thank you, Commander McKee. The Lieutenant Governor of Ontario, the Honorable Edith Dumont, will lead in the laying of the wreaths. Your Honor. The Honorable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, Premier Ministre de l'Ontario. The Honorable Donna Skelly, Speaker of the Legislative Assembly of Ontario, Présidente de l'Assemblée législative, assisted by a member of the Legislative Police Service. Colonel Frank Lamy, Commanding Officer, 32 Canadian Brigade Group, Commandant 32e Brigade, Groupe Brigade du Canada. Michelle D'Emmanuel, Secretary of the Cabinet and Head of the Ontario Public Service, Secrétaire du Conseil des ministres de l'Ontario et chef de la fonction publique. Christine McDowell, Associate Deputy Minister, Veteran Affairs Canada, Sous-ministre délégué des Anciens combattants Canada. Rowan Marston and Leah Korokis, Youth Veteran Affairs Canada delegates. Wendy Joko, Indigenous veteran. Commander Fraser McGee. This concludes our ceremony. I ask you to now rise if you are able for the playing of O Canada, and please remain standing for the departure of the official party. Ceci conclut notre cérémonie. Je vous invite maintenant à vous lever si vous le pouvez pour l'interprétation du Canada et de rester debout pour le départ du parti officiel.